Hello folks, and welcome back to my video gaming channel, RetroGamerDiaries. Today we're talking about the Sega Mega Drive Genesis game Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Love this game. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is a 1992 platform game developed by Sega Technical Institute for the Sega Genesis and Mega Drive. After Sonic the Hedgehog greatly increased the popularity of the Genesis in North America, Sega directed STI founder Mark Cerny to start Sonic 2 in November 1991. Members of the original development team, including the programmer Yuji Naka, moved from Japan to California to join the project. Sonic 2 was intended to be faster and more ambitious than the first game. However, the development did suffer setbacks, including cultural differences between the Japanese and American staff, and numerous levels were cut due to the time constraints and quality concerns. As with the first game, Masato Nakamura, I hope I said his name right, a member of the J-pop band Dreams Come True, composed the soundtrack. Sonic 2 was widely anticipated, and Sega backed it with an aggressive $10 million marketing campaign. It was released in November 1992 to acclaim and received numerous year-to-end accolades, including 2 Golden Joystick Awards. Critics considered Sonic 2 an improvement over the first game and praised the visuals, level design, gameplay and music, though the low difficulty level and similarities to its predecessor were criticised. Sonic 2 broke video game sales records and became the fastest selling game at the time, grossing over $450 million. With 6 million copies sold worldwide, it is the second best selling Genesis game behind the original Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic 2 solidified Sonic as a major franchise and helped keep Sega competitive during the console wars of the 16-bit era in the early 90s. It continues to receive acclaim and is considered one of the greatest video games of all time. Sonic 2 has been released on various platforms via compilations and emulation, and a remake for iOS and Android devices, developed using the Retro engine, was released in December 2013. Such a popular game.
Gear Supersonic Sports Pack, a color portable Game Gear, carrying case, and 2 hit games. Sonic 2 and the Majors Pro Baseball. Whoa, even save $50.
Coffee? Tea?
Okay, so let's talk about the game. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is basically a side-scrolling platform game. It features a story similar to the first Sonic the Hedgehog, which was released in 1999, where Dr. Robotnik, a mad scientist, seeks the Chaos Emeralds to power his space station, the Death Egg, and traps the animal inhabitants of West Side Island in aggressive robots. As Sonic the Hedgehog, the player embarks on a journey to collect these Chaos Emeralds and stop the evil Robotnik. Sonic can run, jump, crouch and attack by curling into a ball. Sonic 2 introduces the Spin Dash, which allows the player to curl while stationary for a speed boost, and Miles Tails Power, a fox with 2 tails who acts as Sonic's sidekick. In the single player game mode, the player controls Sonic and Tails simultaneously, A second player can join in at any time and control Tails separately. The player can also choose to play as Sonic or Tails individually. The game takes place across 11 zones with 20 levels or acts. The acts are larger than the first games, and the player navigates them at high speeds while jumping between platforms, defeating robot enemies and avoiding obstacles. Springs, slopes, bottomless pits and vertical loops fill acts, as do hazards like water and spikes. The player passes checkpoints to save progress, and the last act of each zone ends with a boss battle against Robotnik. Just the same as Sonic 1 basically. However, Sonic 2 does feature twice as many unique level themes compared to the first game, and most zones end after 2 acts rather than 3. Just the same as the first game, the player collects rings as a form of health. If they have at least one ring, when they collide with an enemy or obstacle, they will survive, but their rings will scatter and blink before disappearing. Sonic starts with 3 lives, which they lose if they are hit without a ring, fall down a pit, get crushed, drown or reach the 10-minute time limit. They will also receive a game over if they run out of time. Power-up light shields and invincibility provide additional layers of protection, and lives are replenished by collecting 100 rings or a 1-up. If the player passes a checkpoint with 50 or more rings, they can warp to a very special stage for an opportunity to collect one of the 7 Chaos Emeralds. And when all the Chaos Emeralds have been collected, Sonic can transform into Super Sonic by collecting 50 rings. Super Sonic is nearly invincible, runs faster and jumps further, but loses 1 ring per second and reverts to normal when his rings are depleted. Sonic 2 also introduces a multiplayer game mode where 2 players compete against each other in a split-screen race across 3 levels. After one player finishes a level, the other player must finish within a minute. Players are ranked in 5 areas: score, time, rings held at the end of each level, and the total rings collected and the number of item boxes broken. The player who excels in the most categories wins. Players can also compete to obtain the most rings in the special stages. Absolutely love these features of the game, they were absolutely brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look at the different zones. The first zone is Emerald Hill Zone. If you've played the original Sonic the Hedgehog game, you will most likely forever associate your adventures as Sonic with the verdant hills and tropical beaches of its first level, Green Hill Zone. Well, Sonic the Hedgehog 2's first zone, Emerald Hill Zone, is heavily inspired by that level. Emerald Hill Zone is a fantastic level, with some astute gameplay and design choices to ease players into the world of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. This is also the first zone in the franchise to feature the iconic corkscrew tracks that we have come to associate with Sonic. There are plenty of hidden passages and enough obstacles to engage the player and propel them forward into the rest of the game. This means that Emerald Hill Zone is arguably the easiest level in the entire level, and it features the easiest boss. Okay, so here we are, the chemical plant zone. Toxic chemicals are being produced in this grimy factory under the bright lights of the city. This level is a high speed level, and in fact the fastest of its time, with long twisting paths and loops. Near the bottom of Act 2 lurks the dangerous pink chemical which acts as water, so tread with care. Okay, the aquatic ruin zone. This is a cheerful little water level set around crumbling ruins in a small lake hidden within a thick forest. The water divides the stage right along the middle, and one main route filled with intertwining roads lies above it, while the other is submerged below, where things can get much more tricky. My advice is, as long as you can stay in the high road, you should have few problems with this brief stage. Now we're on the Casino Night Zone. Sonic establishes his controversial gambling problem with the original casino-themed level, a classic staple. Bumpers, flippers and blocks are inexplicably arranged high above the buzzing cityscape at night, and colourful neon lights are everywhere. This is definitely the classic pinball zone of Sonic 2 that will send you bouncing off things in all directions, often across giant pinball tables. The boss at the end of Casino Night Zone is probably one of the most memorable. This is Dr. Robotnik operating a claw machine that drops explosives and is protected by a powerful electric field. The hilltop zone is set high above the clouds where only the peaks of rocky mountain tops and canyons are visible. A straightforward but hilly level with high walls to climb, lava pits to dodge and internal caves to explore. Use the seesaws to spring up, unstable vine lifts to ride down, and watch out for earthquakes which create havoc in the volcanic caves, causing ground and lava to rise and fall. From a gameplay perspective, this zone is a ton of fun to navigate. While not a fast zone by Sonic standards, there are plenty of very smart design choices strewn throughout the level to keep players engaged at all times. For example, this stage has a well-balanced mixture of open spaces and tight cave corridors. Some sections contain dangerous lava pits while others contain gentle slopes and gradual curves. Plenty of springs and seesaws dot the level to help players get around. The soundtrack is upbeat and fits the mountainside scenery very well. In my humble opinion, this is one of the most smartly constructed stages, not only of this game, but of the entire 2D platform genre. The boss in this stage is difficult, but never frustratingly so. Okay, so it's the Mystic Cave Zone now. Carry on deep inside the mountains and you'll find these dark, spooky caves tamed by minecarts and tunnels. This slightly uncommon Sonic location is an enclosed corridor-based stage with deadly spike traps and crushers waiting for you around every corner. so you really do need to be very careful in this stage. Use the hanging vine switches to open up bridges and gates and avoid falling into long pits. Getting through Mystic Cave Zone will require a methodical and measured approach because this is one of the most trap-laden Sonic stages ever. Thankfully, there are always several corridors to choose from, which greatly expands player agency and provides players with plenty of opportunities to improvise and adapt. I like this level, I have to say I did like it. Ocean Hill Zone. This time Eggman's been very busy producing literally an ocean of oil. It's sunset in this grimy refinery, but the thin suspended paths and surroundings are highly decorated. Use green furnace flumes to shoot yourself upwards on small platforms, and a series of spheres will transport you across the large zone to other areas. The oil occupies the whole bottom of the stage, and its thick properties will act as quicksand, so if you don't jump your way out to a nearby ledge, it will drag you down and it will kill you. So let's not do that, eh? Despite what the name would suggest, this is not a city but a giant Eggman industrial factory. It features not 2 but 3 huge acts with a massive array of tricky features and traps to negotiate. Portions of the stage look from top to bottom frequently, and you'll have to be mindful of some nasty industrial crushers, giant nuts and screws, large pits of boiling chemicals, and quite possibly the 3 most irritating badniks you'll ever meet. A long and challenging level this is, but with a great soundtrack I have to say. Metropolis Zone is a fantastic zone, which stands out for 2 reasons. First, it's the only zone in the game to feature 3 full acts, making it one of the longest stages. Second, it is one of the only stages where some frustrating enemy placement can feel unfair to an unprepared player. The obstacles set about by the game designers include some truly ingenious artifacts to test your skills as a player. I spent many an hour manoeuvring my way around giant screws and bolts supporting steel towers, massive crushers and floating conveyor belts, steam traps and grinding cogs. Metropolis Zone is also littered with tons of the game's most aggressive enemies. These guys would unleash both rapid and precise slicing and punching attacks that made finishing the stage unscathed very, very difficult. As if the level wasn't difficult enough, the boss at the end of the 3rd act is outright maddening. This is one of the tankiest and most frustrating boss fights in all of Sonic 2, simply because the boss is so difficult to hit and damage. Okay, here we are, we're in the Sky Chase Zone. Beaten in his own factory, the Doctor retreats to the skies, but Sonic and Tails give chase in their Tornado biplane. A very different level that takes place in the air and is only one act long, with no boss and contains only rings and badniks. You can move around freely with a gradually scrolling environment in which the objects will come towards you from the right, but no matter where you go, their tornado will follow your position and you'll always land back on its wings. A simple, fun level that works more like a mini game. Now we're in the Wing Fortress Zone. It's essentially Act 2 of the Sky Chase Zone. This single act is based on Robotnik's first flying battleship. It hangs in the air, so throughout the whole thing there's a constant threat of falling to your death off the thin ledges and platforms. The paths take you all the way around the mighty ship, filled with propellers, many types of platforms, guns and speed launchers. Though fairly brief and with a simple appearance, this is one tough stage that demands the highest degree of skills. Okay, here we are, we're on the Death Egg Zone, here we go. And so it comes to this. Not a level as such, as it contains only 2 bosses, so it would be better classed as a boss arena. I would consider this to be, if not the most difficult final boss challenge in Sonic history, then it's certainly one of the most difficult. You have the grueling task of defeating not one but 2 enduring bosses with no checkpoints and no rings whatsoever. Nope, not a single one or any other item. None whatsoever. None. Put simply, taking as many as 1 hit per life is not an option here. Well, that was the final level and the final boss scene of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. But before I give you all my gaming verdict of Sonic 2, I just wanted to go back and show you some of these special stages again. We've already previously seen the first special stage level, so let's have a look at a couple of others. To unlock the ability to turn into Super Sonic, you need to collect all of these 7 emeralds by completing these new 3D special stages. This was the first type of special stage to be in 3D, a tradition that has since been followed very closely, particularly in Sonic CD, and these ones take place inside long, twisting and turning half pipes, a basic concept reproduced more than any other in later games. Okay, so that was the special levels. Sonic 2 is a game that we should all be familiar with. So how would I rate this 30-year-old 16-bit game? Well, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is a solid sequel with some excellent ideas. Some of the additions are definitely welcome though, especially the Super Dash attack and the ability to play as Tails, as they encourage you to tackle each level in new and exciting ways. Each zone brings a new gameplay mechanic into the action to keep things fresh, and the sense of speed is incredible. However, one slight criticism is that the level design in the Hilltop zone is bland, and there's some awful underwater areas in the Chemical Plant zone and the Aquatic Ruin zone that bring the action to a crawl. I've not been a massive fan of these underwater levels in Sonic. Sonic is supposed to be fast, not slow. In most of the levels there are only 2 acts per zone, unlike the original's 3, and it feels like you're rushing through them a bit too quickly, if I'll be honest with you. As we've already seen, the special stage challenges you to avoid bombs and collect a certain number of rings to obtain a Chaos Emerald. The 3D half-pipe effect is impressive, but once you've collected the first 2 emeralds it does become a bit of a nightmare with blind corners and bombs everywhere. I did enjoy the split screen mode where the 2 players compete to reach the end of the level. It's a great idea, but there's tons of slowdown too, that has to be said. However, it's hard for me to say anything too negative about Sonic 2. The game packs a punch visually, musically, design-wise and conceptually. Sonic 2 really did help to carve the series into something magical, and it's refreshing to see the characters live on in more recent Sonic games. And although I did enjoy Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles plenty, this is still a peak 2D Sonic game for me, and I can happily play it at any time. Therefore, I am going to rate this game a respectable 8 out of 10 stars. Long live the Blue Hedgehog. Well, there you go folks, that was my review of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. If you liked this video then please press like. You can also leave a comment, I'll certainly try to get back to you. However, it would be absolutely brilliant if you would subscribe to my channel and join my gang. See you later guys, bye bye.